Welcome to the Awaken Heart Podcast. I'm your host, Nancy Walters. Get ready to create magic and miracles as you lean into your heart's desires. I believe not only does the heart want what it wants, but it knows. This show is a weekly deep dive into what it means to live from an awakened heart. I'll be sharing inspiring stories and real conversations with people just like you, who have turned the ordinary into the extraordinary. My mission is to show you how you too can be connected and heart-centered in every area of your life. Your journey to aligning with more love, more joy, and your wildest dreams come true starts now. Welcome to the Awaken Heart Podcast. I'm your host, Nancy Walters, and the first episode of 2022. I think this is going to be a lot better year than we've experienced in the last 2 years. It seems like a lot of truth is coming out. So I'm very happy about that. And I hope y'all had a really good January and a happy New Year and a wonderful holiday. It feels like my New Year is just beginning right now. I was away for the first couple weeks of January, and then I got, the thing, which left me a little tired. It was like nothing. I've had allergies worse than what I had, but it kind of slowed me down. I felt a little more fatigued and unmotivated and uninspired and had to just ride that out. So here I am. Our first episode, and I'm very excited about our topic for today because I think it's very prevalent in everything that's going on in the world, of course, and something that we all need to embrace more and to bring more into our lives. You're hearing a lot about the word sovereignty. You're hearing a lot about it right now. And sovereignty can be experienced in many different ways. For some people, being sovereign means being free from the influence of institutions and outside authorities in our lives. And we've seen a lot of that in these past 2 years. And it's right in our faces. A lot of our freedoms have been stripped, and the government is coming in and trying to take over control of our own bodies. For a lot of people, sovereignty supports our freedom of choice. And what matters most to people like this, like us, is our right to decide what we will and won't do with our lives. And that includes our bodies. When you lose your body's sovereignty, doing something you don't want to do, you kind of lose a bit of your soul. And when you choose a life of soul purpose, you'll be choosing a life of sovereignty too. But the sovereignty that you will experience has nothing to do with your political or economic situation. The kind of sovereignty is spiritual in nature. Being spiritually sovereign means only one thing, that you are free of the illusion of being something that you are not. So it's embracing and following your heart, and it's listening to your intuition and surrendering always to that higher knowing and a higher power. And today's guest, Leandra Rose, I had on one of my first episodes when I first launched this podcast. And Leandra is a shining example of what it means to live as a sovereign being and to surrender to the call of her heart. And even though it might not make sense at the time, but she knows that her heart always knows. And she's helping others to do the same, to really tune in to the truth of what their soul is calling them to do. And out of all the noise that is happening into the world, and how to maintain a state of being one with that and not getting lost in all the distractions. And I wanted to have her back on because her life took a really synchronistic turn of events when something that could have been deemed so awful and tragic and she could have really fought against and feel victimized by, that led her to really surrendering to what her heart was telling her. I've always talked about the cosmic 2x4, that if you're not listening to the call of your heart, like something will happen to smack you on the head where you really have to surrender and listen to it. So I'm really excited for you to hear this podcast and see how things in life that might seem, kind of like what the heck is happening and might not seem fair and all that, but really life is working for us. And Leandra shows us how life is working for us. And we choose certain situations in order to wake us up. Leandra started her transformational work in 2008 after healing her anxiety and panic attacks with meditation. This set her off on a journey to become a master teacher in breathwork, meditation, embodiment, energetics, and mindset. Leandra has transformed her own traumas into the powerful healing presence and processes she brings to her sessions and workshops. It's also her extensive background in psychology, somatic experiences, and mindfulness that creates a unique, empowering, and safe space for her clients to unlock their highest potential. Leandra's work has taken her from teaching meditation to billion-dollar corporations to leading small, intimate retreats for rising leaders. Whatever the space that she holds, it's an exquisite space that allows her clients to have profound breakthrough in life, health, heart, and purpose. And I can attest to this myself, taking several classes from her when I lived in Venice Beach, California. And I've taken some online breath work, and just her courses are amazing. And I can't wait for you to listen to this episode. So without further ado, here's Miss Leandra Rose. Hello, Leandra. Thank you so much for joining us on the Awaken Heart podcast.
Hi, Nancy. I'm so glad to be back and be talking with you today.
I know. So Leandra was one of my first interviews when I launched this podcast it was almost 2 years ago now. And I was so excited to have her on. I'm so excited to have her on again because we talk about a lot of things that are really relevant today, like sovereignty. You're going to hear that word a lot. And just when you listen to your heart and align with that, like miraculous things can happen. You follow your heart. Leandra is an amazing breathwork facilitator, and she's creating these awesome programs that are going to help a lot of people like yourself and many others during this grand awakening, this great awakening process. It's like, how do we take everything that we've discovered that's shaken up the entire fabric of what we know to be real, and we're awakening to what really is. And a lot of that isn't pretty stuff. It's a lot of dark stuff. It's a lot of things that have been brewing beneath the surface for years and years and years. And how do we take that and return to a sense of, I'm going to use one of our program names because I absolutely love the name of it. How do we return to an inner harmony within ourselves? How do we really stand for the truth and authenticity of who we are and what we're seeing happening now without being carried away from it? And that's part of the awakening process. You are going to be carried away from it. It's like a roller coaster. It's like a breakup. You're just going to go through the gamut of emotions. But at some point, you have to come back to that nice peace within yourself. So I love what led you to this next chapter in your life. Like, I'd love for you to go into that story about your car, because that kind of led you to this next whole, your recalibration, your inner harmony, where your home is going to be. And it didn't align you with the like more of a granular purpose, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And this is, to speak to what you were saying about following our hearts, sometimes it's beautiful and blissful, but it's not always rainbows. And we've got to trust that when we follow our hearts, whatever is showing up is meant for us. So you just said, talk about the car. So what happened was literally a year ago, right now, last November, I had the intuition to go spend a few days in Sedona, Arizona. Magical place. If you've ever been there, it is so special. So I feel this heart calling, go spend a couple days in Sedona. I go and I stop at one of my favorite places there, a retreat center where I've led many retreats. And I meet my guides there, my mentors who run the facility. Had a great day visiting. I leave there. This is all intuition. Intuition says, go meet your friends at Angel Valley is the name of the retreat center. Go meet your friends there. I go meet them. And then I feel like, oh, my heart is calling me to stay here at Angel Valley. But there wasn't a room for me there. And I thought, well, that's interesting. My heart's calling me to stay here, but there's not room for me. So I leave the retreat center and I sit at the end of this long dirt road and I go, okay, I feel like I'm meant to be here. I'm meant to stay here. And I look at my calendar and my head gets in the way. And my head's like, no, it's not possible. You only planned for 3 days. You would have to come back, blah, blah, blah. Logic. Fast forward to 30 minutes later, I'm sitting in my hotel room in Sedona, getting ready for my spa day the next day. I had a whole weekend planned for myself. I get a phone call from a police officer saying that my car has been involved in a hit and run accident. And I'm like, no, you have the wrong person. I literally just parked my car. And he's like, no, you need to come downstairs. I come downstairs. My car is smashed. And I literally laugh and cry at the same time. I laugh knowing this is meant for me. And then I'm also crying, like, how does this doesn't fit my plan. But this is part of the magic and the lessons of following our intuition. And I followed my intuition, but then I didn't fully let myself receive the gift of being in Sedona longer because logically it didn't make sense to me. So my car gets smashed. I'm like, well, now I'm definitely not going anywhere. The car's not movable. I'm going to be here longer. And at that point, I didn't know how long. I just had to, that was the moment of surrender. Okay, here's this. My mind says my car getting smashed is a bad thing, but my heart knows that I'm meant to be here longer. So I let go of the logic. I let go of all the limitation and I just surrender. And I'm like, okay, my car's smashed. I'm going to stay here longer. Long story short, I end up staying in Sedona for, I think it was about 6 weeks. And my intuition guided me after that to spend some time in Colorado and then spend some time in New Mexico with my family that I hadn't seen in a couple years. And it ended up being a 4-month journey of initiations that my logical mind couldn't figure out. My logical mind was like, yeah, I just need two days in Sedona and a spa day and I'll be good. I'll go back. And my spirit was like, no, you need 4 months of not knowing what's going to happen next and living moment to moment from your heart and following it. And I did. And synchronicities helped me each step of the way. I didn't know where I was going to go next. And there were all these synchronicities and things just lined up. And I had a lot of ancestral healing. I felt called, like I said, I felt called to go home to visit my family in New Mexico for the first time in a couple of years. So there was a lot of healing that happened, all because I surrendered. My car got smashed and I let that be the gift that then led me to more and more and more of my heart and more and more and more healing. And in that way, I think that what we're seeing in our world right now is the car wreck that could lead us, that has the potential to gift us many opportunities, to gift us the opportunity of following our own hearts, of pulling ourselves out of the paradigm of waiting for somebody to tell us what to do, of giving our power away to people, money, jobs, entities, governments, but really pulling our power back after this car wreck that we're in, pulling our power back and going, okay, what's really here for me? How can I take this car wreck and turn it into something good for my life? How can I turn inward, listen to my heart, and follow that moment to moment?
And yeah, you said something so important I talk about over and over is surrendering. Like surrendering, once you surrender and let go, something higher, you allow something higher to work through you. And like you said, there's amazing synchronicities and events line up. But I'm sure in that moment, it was like, what the heck? My car's crashed. So you allowed that, of course. I mean, who isn't going to see their car smashed? And it's like, oh, how am I going to go home? Like, I got to, pay my bills. Like, I got to work, da, 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 da. But then there's a moment where you took a breath and you surrender. How long was that process before you actually like, okay, after the crying, okay, there's a lesson in this, listen to my heart, follow it.
In that moment, there was an instant in that I was literally laughing and crying at the same time, having
You knew it.
the moment of my ego going, this is impossible. How could this shouldn't be happening to me? All the things the ego says. How dare you wreck my car? Like, do you know who I am? Do you know what I had planned? Like my ego's doing that. And my heart is going,
yay.
Oh my gosh, I asked for this. Oh my gosh, I'm going to be in Sedona for longer. That's exactly what I asked for. And so it's happening at the same time. And then there were moments throughout those first couple of weeks, the journey with the car and what I had to go through to get it fixed, where my ego would swing in and be like, I can't believe this is happening. And Sedona's this small town and it's so hard to get anything fixed. And it was just all of that. And then also at the same time, knowing somehow even this is a gift. And that right there, the somehow even this is a gift, has been medicine for me for many years, where even when I'm in like the darkest place, even when I'm in like the deepest trigger or the scariest place or the deepest grief, there's this message that my heart just keeps saying, even this is going to work out, even this. And that's how I feel too about what we're seeing collectively. Yes, my ego sometimes goes, how can this car wreck of a cluster be good for us, And then my heart says, even this, slow down, lean back, and trust that even this is working out for our greatest good, even this.
Because everything really is. And it's having that trusting in that. Can you let everyone know, why is self-trust the greatest gift that you can offer?
Such a good question, such a deep question. It really is the reason that we're here. The reason that we're here is to be our authentic selves and to bring our unique gifts forward. And in order to do that, we've got to be able to trust ourselves. And sometimes the path to getting to trusting ourselves happens through the car wrecks. It happens through the pain, through the breakups. And then over and over and over, we go through these lessons and we go, oh yeah, I kind of knew that. Oh, I kind of knew something like that was going to happen. Oh, I kind of knew this relationship wasn't going to work out, but I pushed it. I didn't listen to my heart. I didn't follow my heart. I overrode my heart because I wanted the relationship, or I overrode my heart because I thought having that job was the right thing to do. Right. And so all of these lessons, as painful as they might be sometimes, are the gift that's turning us back to trusting ourselves, self-trust, listening to our hearts. And what that means is when we trust ourselves and we listen to our hearts, what we're doing is we're tapping into universal intelligence, the universal intelligence that flows through all things, including you and including me. So if that universal intelligence flows through all things, if the universal intelligence that flows through the forest and creates this incredible ecosystem is flowing through the forest, why wouldn't it be flowing through me? If the universal intelligence is flowing through the single-celled organisms that know how to get what they need in order to thrive, why wouldn't that intelligence also be flowing through you and me? And how we tap into that universal intelligence is by dropping into the heart and letting our hearts lead the way. That doesn't mean the mind is not useful. The mind is very useful for organizing and planning and doing all kinds of useful things. but it's not so good at being in the present moment
Mhm.
and listening deeply to the wisdom that's here in the present moment.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. And we forget we're here to remember because we came here forgetting so we can learn schoolroom earth, as they say, that we are all part of a greater whole. Like we are source. We are like these eternal spiritual like light beings, and it's just remembering that and allowing that magic to flow through us. I mean, we had great masters throughout the years like Jesus Christ, who has shown us, like, literally he was a total vessel channeling all that beautiful divine energy and just showing us what is within all of us. And we are all connected. As hard it is, as sometimes it's crazy to think about that when you see like somebody just like that's so irritating as F, and or I can't be part of that person, but we're intrinsically connected. And then everybody is here on their own path, their own soul's journey, whatever their vessel needs at the time. And that's why I think, like, compassion for each other and compassion for yourself, and coming back to trust of who you really are, who we really are
Mhm.
in all. So, and that's why, how it's so important, as Leandra says, that self-trust is such a great gift
Yeah.
for all. And there's more self-trust in your story. I want to continue on your story because all that time in Sedona and your wonderful partner, what happened? What's happening right now?
Oh, such a good question. Yeah. So he sent me on my way. He was so sweet a year ago, sending me on my way for a weekend trip in Sedona. It was so sweet. He helped me get all packed up. Okay, I'll see you in a couple of days. Right. And then all this happens. And all of a sudden, I'm like, no, I need to live moment to moment right now. I don't know where I'm going to go next. And he and I were on the phone every day, like, what's happening? And what happened, another gift of that 4-month journey of initiations, another gift was finding sovereignty in our relationship. We have a beautiful relationship, and we had a beautiful relationship before I left for a weekend. I was only going to be gone for a weekend. We had this beautiful relationship, and part of my journey, and I think most of us on the planet right now, part of our journey is transitioning from codependence to sovereignty. And I think that's the gift that we're being given by a lot of the things that are happening in the collective is, how can I be more sovereign? How can I follow my own intuition and be a sovereign being while being in relationship to others? And so my partner and I had a really powerful experience of that. How can we be sovereign and allow the freedom for each other to explore whatever needs to be explored, while also being in relationship and honoring the relationship, and like doing that dance together was really powerful and intense at times. Um, Thankfully, I was staying at Angel Valley with my mentor there. Um, and he was a big guide for us. And my partner came out there, and we got to sit with my mentor, who's now passed. He passed shortly after I got to spend all that time with him, which was another miracle,
Mm-hmm.
that I got to spend that time with him, and that my partner got to spend that time with him too, and that we got to have counsel from a very wise being who stood for sovereignty, and how to navigate that while being in relationship is one of the hardest things that we get to do as human beings. How do I own not lose myself while doing this dance of relationship with the other person, and not be so independent that we are not able to come together? But how can we be sovereign and interdependent so that our universes come together like a Vesica Pisces, like a Venn diagram, right? So we're two whole people, but then there's a place where our universes come together, and we have a meeting place, this third entity of our relationship, while also maintaining the full completeness of who we are as
Mm-hmm.
individuals. So that was a another big initiation that happened during that 4-month period. And then there was a time towards the end of that 4 months, suddenly I had the intuition, and he and I had never talked about living in his place in Los Angeles. We had been staying during the pandemic, the lockdowns, we had been staying in my place in Topanga, but it was a little small. So we had never talked about us taking over his space. And then one day I just had this intuition, like, okay, I think this time away is done. And I feel in my heart, like, I want to live there with him in Los Angeles. So I tell him, and at the time he shared this space with a roommate that for years, like 8 years, they lived together. So I tell him, you know what's on my heart? I would love to share that space with you, if you didn't have a roommate already there. So if that opens up for us, let's have that conversation. She's like, oh my gosh, that would be amazing. How amazing and perfect this place would be if this roommate, decides to leave or something. And without him saying a word to the roommate about our conversation, 12 hours later, out of the blue, the roommate calls him and he's like, this is me putting in my 30-day notice.
Oh my God. Wow.
Yep. And I was like, okay, my intuition was correct. It's time for us to move in together and spend time in Los Angeles. So here's where another piece comes in, because this is where I am now in Los Angeles. This is where sometimes too, following our intuition doesn't always lead to rainbows. My ego does not want to be in Los Angeles for a lot of reasons, but I'm in a sort of like what the message that I got at the beginning of this journey, because I'm like, why did I say I wanted to be in Los Angeles? It's like the city. We're in Culver City. It's beautiful here. It's beautiful. And there's a lot of cars and there's a lot of EMFs and there's a lot of power lines and there's a lot, right? And I was used to living in Topanga, in the canyon.
I've been to your house.
Yes, in the magical canyon and with the birds, and like I was like Snow White every morning playing with the birds and the bunnies.
Totally.
And then I was in Sedona and I'm sitting by the river every day. And then I'm in Colorado and New Mexico and all these beautiful, expansive places where I'm connected to nature. And then my intuition, my heart says, go to LA. It feels right. Everything aligns. I get to LA and I'm like, what?
Maybe you were sent there to see the contrast of what you really needed.
Yes, exactly. So then what happened? So surrender, right? I'm like, okay, I'm here. This is where my heart has led me. There's so much love here. There's so much support. I love my partner. Okay, there must be a reason. So when I surrendered to it, when I stopped fighting what this city is, the gift that I got, and I want to share this with everyone here, the gift that I got was what my guides called frequency gym, and learning how to own my frequency, my inner harmony in the midst of the chaos of this city. And learning how to come back to that. And that's why I've relaunched my program, Inner Harmony, and I'll talk more about that shortly, but why I'm also doing a weekly recalibration breathwork, because we need spaces where we can recalibrate to our higher selves, especially amidst the noise. So I found that it's very easy to recalibrate to my highest self when I'm sitting in the forest and there's nothing else but me and nature. Like, of course I'm connected to myself there. And it's beautiful medicine. And I highly recommend everybody spend as much time in nature as possible. But what happens when we're in a situation where we can't spend that much time in nature, right? We're living in a place where maybe access to nature isn't right outside your front door. Maybe it's not so easy, right? So how do we recalibrate to our higher selves, even in the midst of the chaos of our cities? And I think that our cities are in a lot of turmoil right now. There is a lot of division and a lot of control trying to be had over people within cities, especially in Los Angeles. So how do I find my sovereignty, my inner peace, my connection to my higher self, even while being in the midst of this kind of noise and chaos?
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of people don't have that luxury of having like a forest, which I do. I walk right across the street. I'm in the forest and like you said, recalibrate. And I mean, if you're in the middle of New York City, you're not getting much of that. You can get to Central Park, but you can find inner harmony anywhere. I mean, of course, nature helps you access it that much quicker. It just is. But so you're showing people how to find that wherever you're at, whatever situation you're in. And, I felt the call. You had said it was your ego was fighting that you didn't want to get to be, your ego was fighting that you didn't want to be in Los Angeles, but I don't feel it as your ego. Like I can see part of it, like, oh, why am I here? But your spirit didn't want to be there. It's just like, here you are, you're here now, but your soul wanted you to be somewhere different.
Yeah, there's definitely a part of there. My soul is very nourished by nature. I'm a very sensitive being, and I'm sure I know you are, and I'm sure a lot of your listeners are. Sometimes we don't even realize how sensitive we are until we leave the noise and come back to it and realize like I am really impacted by my surroundings. So there is a bigger part of me that knows that I'm nurtured by nature and I'm meant to be there. And this period of time here in Los Angeles, and it will be temporary. I mean, everything is temporary, but this time here in Los Angeles is my frequency gym. It is my lessons in really owning my frequency and also understanding what so many of my clients are going through. Really having a deep understanding and appreciation and compassion for people in my community and my clients who don't have nature right outside their door. And for whatever reason, that won't work for them, right now, or maybe ever. Maybe they will always be tied to the city for their families or whatever their mission is. So the gift that I'm getting is how to bring this medicine into our cities and into modern life. I'm fairly certain I probably spent a couple of lifetimes meditating in the caves in the Himalayas. And there have been times in this life that has sounded really appealing. Like if I could just disappear and just meditate in a cave, I think that's what I'm meant to do. But in this life, I am being called to bring this wisdom into daily life, into modern life. So how do we live our modern lives with the chaos, with the noise, with the families, with the partners, with all of this, and still find this deep, unshakable inner peace and knowing that everything is working out for the best. And you mentioned compassion, and that's actually the next module of the Inner Harmony program is bringing compassion to ourselves, because it lightens our load when we just say, you know what, this is the human experience. Right now, I'm not meditating in a cave in the Himalayas. I'm sitting in the middle of this city. I have a relationship. I have responsibilities. I run a business. I have all of these things happening. How can I navigate everything that I have on my plate from a place of inner harmony? It starts with compassion. Let me have compassion for this human experience and know that it's not always as easy as sitting in a cave and having zero distractions, although I'm sure that that's hard in its own ways. But having compassion for the fact that in these human bodies, we have emotions that are difficult to feel. We have pain in our bodies. Sometimes we have injuries. Sometimes we have illness. Sometimes our loved ones have illness. And ultimately, all of us face the end of our lives. So having compassion for this like tender experience of being human and just learning to love all of the experiences, even the ones that are difficult. In this moment, I'm having a difficult experience. Okay, how can I love myself through it? And know that there will be another moment when I feel good. And then there will be another moment when I don't feel good. But in our society, I find that there's such a desire and a drive to never feel the so-called negative things. There's a pill for that, right? Oh, you're
Spiritual
feeling,
bypass. Whoop.
yeah, spiritual bypass or a medical bypass. Oh, you're feeling anxious, you're feeling
Here, take
sad.
this.
Yeah, take this pill. Take this
Not going to the
pill,
root.
or just drink a glass of wine every night. You don't have to feel the stress, or you don't have to feel it. Just drink, busy yourself, whatever our addictions are. And it's not just, substances, it can be habits as well. Habits that distract us from our inner world and distract us from feeling what we're feeling. And so learning to understand that this is part of the human experience. We're going to have the car wreck moments. We're going to have the government's dissolving moments, right? Like we're seeing right now, there's so much unraveling in our world. How do we maintain our sense of inner harmony and our center and our connection to our inner wisdom and our gifts? Because if we are here right now, we are here to bring a gift into the world. We are here during this great unraveling because we each hold a golden thread that is meant to be weaved into the new paradigm. And that doesn't happen if we're fighting what's happening. If we're fighting against it, if we're angry about it, if we're, it happens through saying, okay, this is what's happening. Just like me with the car accident. Okay, this is what's happening. It sucks. There's some things that are really uncomfortable about it. Okay, but it must be happening for me. How can I harness this disaster and make the best of it?
And you've been amazing through this whole time. I've known you for a couple of years, and we had our interview before, I think maybe at the beginning of this slowdown, and you've maintained consistency in your messaging, in your energy, in your vibration, and in your purpose. And I know, you've had your own undulations throughout that. And what was that? The frequency? I love that. What do you call that?
Frequency gym?
Frequency gym. So you had your own frequency gym, but for your, the people that you support in your community, you were consistent the whole way through. This beautiful, amazing healing energy with this divine feminine gorgeousness. And meanwhile, there's someone like me. I went off the other end. I was like the warrior princess. I'm like, what the world? My world was like knocked on its head. The axis was tilted, and I was just like, ready to battle. So I was one of them that went through like the anger and the like, wanting to shake people up, and the shock and the horror and all that. But at my point, mine took a little longer. It took me about, I don't know, a year and a half to come to what you're talking about. Come to the inner harmony. We're here for a reason. There's a purpose. Okay, yes, that's going on. Okay, I surrender to, there's something higher, and trusting. That's where trust comes in. So important. Trusting that we're not going to, like, the light will always prevail. So I honor you. I admire you for that so, so much.
Thank you. And anger is an important part of the process too. You can't bypass, you can't just make yourself feel peace if you're not feeling peace. So, okay, there's a moment of anger, but then what do you do? Do you keep fueling the anger? Do you keep living in anger? Do you keep fighting the reality? Which is what I was doing when I first moved to Los Angeles. I was like, why is there noise happening? Why is this happening? Why? This shouldn't be happening. How can they be listening to loud music in the middle of the, that kind of thing, right? And fighting it. And then my spirit said, what if you just let it be what it is? And when we let it be what it is, instead of fighting it, and we just surrender and we soften, then we start to get the gifts out of it. But of course, there's a moment we pass through a ring of fire. We pass through a ring of anger. As long as we don't get stuck there, it's okay. And as long as we don't use our anger in an unhealthy way. But the anger part isn't bad. It's just not a place we need to live in. It's a stage that we get to pass through, bring our power with us, which is our power lives in our anger. So it's important to harness that and then move on and bring our power into the next phase. How do I bring that warrior energy into being a warrior for peace?
Yeah, that's something that it was a process coming to, and that's why I can have compassion for myself and for others that are going through the same thing. Yeah, so you're in Los Angeles with your boyfriend, your partner, and you're, surrendering to where you are in the moment. So what led you to, I know you're changing locations as far as where you're going to be living. Can you tell us about what led to that?
Yeah. So we bought a house in Sedona just a few weeks ago.
Mhm.
As of right now, we just bought a house in Sedona. So what led to that, last year when I was there and he came out to visit me, he looked around and he was like, you know what? I could see us living here. And in that moment, I was actually filming because we were standing on top of this mountain looking at the
Mhm.
red rocks in Sedona. And I'm like filming this panoramic view. And he's like 10 feet away from me. And he's like, you know what, babe? I could see us living here. And I'm like, oh, I got you on video. We're doing it. You can't back out now. I'm like, the gods of Sedona have heard you. We're doing it. We're moving to Sedona. And so we started the ball rolling then. And we put out there, we started talking to people while we were there together. And while I was there after he left, talking to people about buying property there. And here's the beautiful thing. He said from the very beginning, he said, I want a house in Sedona and I want land to expand on. And people said, that's not really possible, especially in your price range. You're probably going to have to go to the outskirts for that, blah, 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 logic, logic, logic. And we kind of put it on the back burner. It was like, okay, then we start looking for houses more seriously. And then one day this perfect property popped up. It's in West Sedona. And if anybody knows Sedona, that's like the place you want to be.
Mhm.
It's a house in West Sedona with land to expand,
Mhm.
and not just land to expand, like it's just perfectly orchestrated for the vision that we had.
Mhm.
We wouldn't even have to move a single weed in order to build it. We wouldn't have to
Wow.
it's just like this blank slate. It's this house with this blank slate of a property ready to be built on. And so we put an offer on this house right when it came on the market. And even through that whole process, our realtor and other people were like, don't get your heart set on it. It's your first one and the market this and the
Mhm.
market that, la, 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 la. And I said to the realtor, and she's actually incredibly lovely, but also realistic because she's a realtor and she knows the market really well. She was just being realistic. And I said to her, I said, well, we only speak in miracles here. And she was
Mm.
like, oh, she was like, okay, I can get behind that. She's like, it's a long shot what you're asking for here, but okay. And then, of course, she was a witness to many miracles that happened. Long story short, we ended up with this amazing property in Sedona. And eventually we will transition there. Right now, it's in transition. And we're actually going to go spend some time on the land this weekend
Mhm.
and just ground in and get to know the land there and really create a relationship with the land of like what's wanted. Here we are,
Mm.
we're creating this relationship with this plot of land. I really see it as we're stewards of this land. And so we're going to go spend some intentional time there this weekend and get to know this land and have it be a really
Mm.
beautiful transition from the people who are currently living there to us, and have it be a mutually supportive experience. It's not just like, oh, we have this idea and we're going to go flatten this place and then build whatever we want on it.
Mhm.
It's a co-creation, and so it's going to take as long as it takes. But right
Mhm.
now, we're looking at moving there in the spring if
Mm.
all things happen the way that we hope, and we're just
Mhm.
listening to our hearts and creating that plan.
So it's a full house. Think I remember seeing it on Instagram or you posted it somewhere. It looked beautiful, looked amazing. And then there's this land. I take it you're going to create something in, like, you're a healer yourself at some kind of healing center. But I love that you're going to listen to the land and see what it wants, because it called to you. Like, literally, that was like lined up for you. It was meant to be. That was your place. Spirits, it's aligned, because I work in real estate for years and I've been signing loans all years, and people are not getting their house on the first try. So that was definitely divinely meant for you guys. So that's amazing story. And I'm so happy for you. And I can't wait to see what you create there. I love Sedona. It's such an absolutely magical place. Talk about vortexes of energy there, man. I see your spirit now, but, and then after spending time there, man, woo, be
Yeah.
transcendent.
Yeah, it is. It's a really powerful place to be. And we feel so blessed and so
Hmm.
grateful and so
Hmm.
honored to be chosen to be stewards of this land, because it could have been anyone. It could have been someone with a cash offer, it could have been
Hmm.
anything else could have happened, but there's a reason why we're being called there. And yeah, I do see us doing some healing work there for
Hmm.
sure. Yeah.
Mm. I just have to comment right now, because as I'm looking at you, like, I don't know if it's a mirror, there's something behind you, and it literally looks like a macrame. It looks
Yeah.
like a halo around your head. You look
Oh
like Mother Mary, like an
my.
angel. Beautiful.
Oh.
Beautiful. So I know we touched upon, there's two programs that you have going. One's in the midst right now, Inner Harmony, and then you do something, is it weekly?
Mhm.
Every Sunday, you do the recalibration. Can you talk to us a little bit about what your programs are and then where to find you?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, Inner Harmony is in process right now. It is a program that I've offered many times. And so I'll be offering it again probably in the spring. And I have felt, especially in this last year and a half, that this particular program, Inner Harmony, is really helpful right now for how do we navigate the chaos? How do we find our center amidst the noise? How do we navigate the unknown with grace? How do we harness our own power, our own intuition amidst everything that's happening? And really, in the history of the world, we've always been swimming in the unknown. But right now it's really, really clear. Like all of the ways that we once coped with being in the unknown are kind of unraveling, and we're kind of faced with this very vulnerable experience of, my job could change at any moment. The world could change at any
Mhm.
moment. Things could be hurled into chaos like it has been in the last year and a half. How do I maintain my sense of inner harmony and inner power amidst all that? And that's what this program is. We go through bringing compassion to ourselves and learning how to feel our emotions, really learning how to feel the challenging emotions so we don't have to run from them is a big superpower in itself. And breaking free from victim consciousness and being
Mhm.
able to really own our sovereignty, really own our creatorship as adults, while understanding that we most of us had experiences as children that were traumatic and caused us to have imprints and all of that. So we hold compassion for the conditioning that we have received, and we come into our powerful sovereign adult and hold that inner child and create from a place of sovereignty and inner harmony and inner power. So that program is one of my favorite programs. I've been leading it for many years, so I'll be bringing that one back, I'm sure, in the new year.
Mhm.
And recalibration is a weekly breath work. It's a short 90-minute process where we come together in a group setting and recalibrate to our higher selves, recalibrate to our intuition. It's like a chiropractic adjustment, right? We go through our week and we pick up all this noise, and we pick up all this energetic gunk and this emotional kind of gunk, right? And the recalibration sessions help to cleanse us of that and to create clarity and to align us to our mission and to our purpose week after week. So I'm really enjoying that process and the people who are joining us for recalibration on Sundays at 4 p.m. Pacific. And you can find me at leandrarose.com. You can find all that information. And then I also spend a lot of time sharing and connecting with people on Instagram. You can find me at the Radiant Rebellion. The Radiant Rebellion is a mission-driven movement to help people to own their sovereignty, their power, and their power to create amidst the chaos and the noise, and really be who they're meant to be, really break free of the matrix by being who we're meant to be. That's the Radiant Rebellion. It's not a fight against anything. It's just being who we are despite what we've been told.
And that's one of your programs too. Didn't you have a program that was called that? Or
no, I have a group on Facebook, the Radiant Rebellion group as well. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. Well, I want to thank you for being here with us again. I think your whole story is so inspirational. You're just inspirational just to begin with, and your programs are going to help so many people in these trying times. And we need more of these people that are sovereign and trust in themselves and that shine their light for others to do the same. So before we go, I know I asked you this the last time, and I ask everyone this. So what does it mean for you to live with an awakened heart?
It means to live moment to moment, trusting myself, connecting to myself, listening to myself, even when it's hard, even when it doesn't make sense, even when I'm staring at a car wreck and my heart led me there, even when I'm staring at a global pandemic and everything seems to be falling apart. Living with an awakened heart is staying in my heart, staying in trust, staying in compassion, staying in love, in inspiration, in my power, no matter what's happening outside.
And you said it. That's so beautiful. And I'm going to take that home with me today and use it and integrate it. And I'm definitely I want to join you on one of the recalibrations. And I suggest everybody to at least to do the same, to join in on a Sunday. I've taken some of her breathwork courses, and it's amazing. Like, I think I've gotten like into a certain state of being and dimension that I never had before with this beautiful woman leading the way for me to access those parts of myself. So thank you, Leandra. Thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure. Really, truly. Thank you. And thank you for doing what you do and tapping people into their sovereignty and their awakened hearts. This is what we're here for. And I'm so glad to know you and to be a part of your community. And I look forward to more conversations like this.
I do too. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Awakened Heart Podcast. If you've enjoyed what you've heard today, share it with a friend. And if you haven't already, head on over to your favorite podcast app to subscribe, rate, and review. If you have any comments, questions, or feedback, you can reach me at theawakenedheartpodcast.com.